Friday afternoon, this is today's Bible reading. Transition, Tuesday, faith and forgiveness. As he did after the first day, Jesus withdrew from the city at the close of the second day also. Mark's account now indicates the beginning of the third day in the morning. Thus, Tuesday. On this day, Mark describes the withering of the fig tree, which Jesus had cursed the previous day. Like Mark, Matthew notes the beginning of a new day in the morning. For Matthew, though, this is only the second day, and the fig tree is cursed and withers on this same day. Both Matthew and Mark relate the cleansing of the temple to the cursing of the fig tree. The activity in the temple, like the fig tree, had the appearance of life, but could be as fruitless as was the greed of the money changers. Mark links the two events by recording the cursing of the tree before the temple episode and the withering of the tree after. The fig tree was often a symbol of judgment upon Israel in the Old Testament, and Mark uses this symbolism to represent judgment upon the religious observances in the temple. Now the book of Matthew, chapter 21, 18 through 22. The fig tree withered. Now in the morning, as they returned to the city, he was hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the road, he came to it and found nothing on it but leaves, and said to it, "Let no fruit grow on you ever again." Immediately the fig tree withered away. The lesson of the withered fig tree. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, "How did the fig tree wither away so soon?" So Jesus answered and said to them, "Assuredly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, you will not only do what was done to the fig tree, but also if you say to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' it will be done. And whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive." Now the book of Mark, chapter 11, 20 through 26, the lesson of the withered fig tree. Now in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away." So Jesus answered and said to them, "Have faith in God, for surely I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." Forgiveness and prayer. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your trespasses. For your trespasses. Transition. Questioning Jesus' authority. Opposition to Jesus came not from the Jewish people in general, but primarily from their religious leaders and rulers, especially from the high Jewish council, the Sanhedrin. The center of this opposition was located in Jerusalem, and particularly in the temple. So it was in the temple precincts that various opposing factions engaged Jesus in a series of verbal altercations. The gospel writers record a number of these controversies as occurring during Jesus' final week in Jerusalem. The challenges to Jesus appear as a series of rapid-fire encounters during a single day, but they may have taken place over a longer period of time. Jesus' questioners were those who considered themselves religious: the Pharisees, Herodians, Sadducees, and scribes. Only Matthew's gospel relates the parable of the two sons, which condemns the self-righteous attitude of the Jewish leaders. While the first son in the parable represents those who responded to the preaching of John the Baptist, the second son represents those who claimed to be religious but rejected Jesus. Now the book of Matthew, chapter 21, 23 through 32. By what authority? Now when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people confronted him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" But Jesus answered and said to them, "I also will ask you one thing, which if you tell me, I likewise will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, where was it from? From heaven or from men?" And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say to us, 'Why then did you not believe him?' But if we say from men, not we fear But if we say from men, we fear the multitude, for all count John as a prophet." So they answered Jesus and said, "We do not know." And he said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." The parable of the two sons. But what do you think? A man had two sons, and he came to the first and said, "Son, go work today in my vineyard." He answered and said, "I will not." But afterward he regretted it and went. Then he came to the second and said likewise. And he answered and said, "I go, sir." But he did not go. Which of the two did the will of his father? They said to him, "The first." Jesus said to him, "Assuredly I say to you that tax collectors and harlots enter the kingdom of God before you. For John came to you in the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him. But tax collectors and harlots believed him, and when you saw it, you did not afterward relent and believe him." Now the book of Mark, chapter 11, 27 through 33. Jesus is challenged. Then they came again to Jerusalem, and as he was walking in the temple, the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders came to him. And they said to him, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority to these things?" But Jesus answered and said to them, "I also will ask you one question, then answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men? Answer me." And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he'll say, 'Why then did you not believe him?' But if we say from men," they fear the people, for all counted John to have been a prophet indeed. So they answered and said to Jesus, "We do not know." And Jesus answered and said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things." Now the book of Luke, chapter 20, 1 through 8. Jesus silences his opponents. Now it happened on one of those days, as he taught the people in the temple and preached the gospel, that the chief priests and the scribes, together with the elders, confronted him and spoke to him, saying, "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things? Or who is he who gave you this authority?" But he answered and said to them, "I also will ask you one thing, and answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or from men?" And they reasoned among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven, he'll say, Why then did you not believe him? But if we say, from men, all the people will stone us, for they are persuaded that John was a prophet. So they answered, and that they did not know where it was from. And Jesus said to them, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. Transition. Answering by parables. The controversies range over a variety of topics, with the Jewish leaders testing Jesus by calling into question his God-given authority. Jesus responded often in parables that challenged official Judaism. All three synoptic gospels recount the parable of the vineyard and wicked vine dressers, which Jesus adapted from the prophet Isaiah for his own situation. Matthew's parable of the wedding feast shows that rejection of Jesus would bring judgment. Now the book of Matthew, chapter 21, 33 through 22, 14. The parable of the wicked vine dressers. Here another parable. There was a certain landowner who planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it, dug a wine press in it, and built a tower. And he leased it to vine dressers and went into a far country. Now when vintage time drew near, he sent his servants to the vine dressers that they might receive its fruit. And the vine dressers took his servants, beat one, killed one, and stoned another. Again he sent on the other servants more than the first, and they did likewise to them. Then last of all he sent his son to them, saying, they will respect my son. But when the vine dressers saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seize his inheritance. So they took him and cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those vine dressers? They said to him, he will destroy those wicked men miserably, and lease his vineyard to other vine dressers, who will render to him the fruits in their seasons. Jesus said to them, have you never read in the scriptures? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I say to you, the kingdom of God will be taken from you and given to a nation bearing the fruits of it. And whoever falls on this stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him to powder. Now when the chief priests and Pharisees heard his parables, they perceived him that he was speaking of them. But when they sought to lay hands on him, they feared the multitudes because they took him for a prophet. Landowners of Galilee, Mark 12:9. Jesus' parables are geographically set in Galilee, the northern part of Judean territory, in New Testament times. A parable about owners of vineyards was quite appropriate for Jesus' audience in the rural economic conditions of Galilee. The name Galilee likely means their circle or district, and appears in the expression Galilee district of the Gentiles. The Jewish historian Josephus gives a detailed description of the area and its administrative structure. Except for a few notable larger cities, such as Chorazin, Sepphoris, Bethsaida, and Capernaum, Galilee was a rural area. Josephus describes Galilee as an agriculturally fertile area which grew grapes, figs, olives, and wheat. Galilee was also well situated to take advantage of already existing trade routes. The Via Maris, a major highway, forked on its way north at Megiddo, with one branch going by the Sea of Galilee to Hazor. Caravans of traders would use this route when traveling from Damascus towards the Mediterranean coast. During the Hellenistic period, after 332 BC, Galilee flourished with the landowners of large estates, employing sharecroppers and unskilled laborers. The Zenon Papyri, 3rd century BC, describe a certain Zenon who toured and inspected a number of estates in the region. This source, along with a handful of others, presents Galilee as an area of concentrated agricultural production, increasingly concerned with water supply and tenant housing. While some of Jesus' parables show evidence of small family estates, others reflect the existence of absentee landlords who lived away from their land. Social structure in Galilee likely depended on whether an individual owned land. While many Galileans were small landowners, there were a number of elites in the region. Certainly among the upper class were the chief men of Galilee, who attended Herod's birthday feast. Now the book of Matthew chapter 22, the parable of the wedding feast. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables and said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son, and sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fatted cattle are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding.' But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his own farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. But when the king heard about it, he was furious, and he sent out his armies, destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore go into the highways, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding.' So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with the guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, 'Friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment?' And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, 'Bind him hand and foot, take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen.'" Now the book of Mark, chapter 12, 1 through 12. The parable of the wicked vine dressers. Then he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it, dug a place for the wine vat, and built a tower. And he leased it to vine dressers and went into a far country. Now at vintage time he sent a servant to the vine dressers, that he might receive some of the fruit of the vineyard from the vine dressers. And they took him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent them another servant, and at him they threw stones, wounded him in the head, and sent him away shamefully treated. And again he sent another, and him they killed, and many others, beating some and killing some. Therefore, still having one son, his beloved, he also sent him to them last, saying, "They will respect my son." But those vine dressers said among themselves, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. Have you not even read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they sought to lay hands on him, but feared the multitude, for they knew he had spoken the parable against them. So they left him and went away. Now the book of Luke, chapter 29 through 19, the parable of the wicked vine dressers. Then he began to tell the people this parable. A certain man planted a vineyard, leased it to vine dressers, and went into a far country for a long time. Now at vintage time he sent a servant to the vine dressers, that they might give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the vine dressers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent another servant, and they beat him also, treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent the third, and they wounded him also and cast him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Probably they'll respect him and when they see him." But when the vine dressers saw him, they reasoned among themselves and say, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, that the inheritance may be ours." So they cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, what will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to others. And when they heard it, they said, "Certainly not." Then he looked at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Whoever falls on that stone will be broken, but on whomever it falls, it'll grind him to powder." And the chief priests and the scribes that very hour sought to lay hands on him, but they feared the people, for they knew he had spoken this parable against them. Transition. Questioned by Pharisees and Herodians. The Pharisees sent their disciples with the Herodians, presenting Jesus with an apparently no-win situation. If he told them to pay taxes to Rome, the Pharisees would discredit Jesus with the Jews. The Herodians, who supported the Roman occupation, would brand Jesus as a traitor to Rome. If he did not support taxation, Jesus answered and challenged both groups. The denarius bore the image of the Emperor Tiberius Caesar and thus supported Rome's right to require taxes. Now the book of Matthew, chapter 22, 15 through 22. The Pharisees, is it lawful to pay taxes? Then the Pharisees went and plotted how they might entangle him in his talk. And they sent to him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are true and teach the way of God in truth. Nor do you care about anyone, for you do not regard the person of men. Tell us, therefore, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, "Why do you test me, you hypocrites? Show me the tax money." So they brought him a denarius, and he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." When they had heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. Now the book of Mark, chapter 12, 13 through 17. To Caesar, what is the Caesar's? Then they sent to him some of the Pharisees and the Herodians to catch him in his words. When they had come, they said to him, "Teacher, We know that you are true and care about no one, for you do not regard the person of man, but teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Shall we pay or shall we not pay?" But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said to them, "Why do you test me? Bring me a denarius that I may see it." So they brought it. And he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar's." And Jesus answered and said to them, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they marveled at him. Now the book of Luke, chapter 20, 20 through 26. Paying tribute. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous, that they might seize on his words, in order to deliver him to the power and the authority of the governor. Then they asked him, saying, "Teacher, we know that you say and teach rightly, and you do not show personal favoritism, but teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not?" But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Why do you test me? Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription does it have?" They answered and said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." But they could not catch him in his words in the presence of the people, and they marveled at his answer and kept silent. Transition. Questioned by Sadducees. The Sadducees were the priestly sect among the Jews that had charge of the temple sacrificial system. They were more aristocratic than the other sects, and being theologically more liberal, they did not believe in an afterlife or the resurrection. The story of the seven brothers may have been one of their stock illustrations to ridicule the idea of a resurrection. While the doctrine of the Sadducees was opposed to the Pharisees, they were like the Pharisees in trying to discredit Jesus. Now the book of Matthew, chapter 22, 23 through 33. The Sadducees. What about the resurrection? The same day, the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him, "Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now, there were with us 7 brothers. The first died after he had married, and having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. Likewise, the second also, and the third, even to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had her." Jesus answered and said to them, "You are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, 'I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob'? God is not the God of the dead, but of the living." And when the multitudes heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. Now the book of Mark, chapter 12, 18 through 27. Life in heaven is different. Then some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him, and they asked him, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies and leaves his wife behind and leaves no children, his brother should take his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and dying, he left no offspring. And the second took her, and he died, nor did he leave any offspring. and the third likewise. So the seven had her and left no offspring. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, when they rise, whose wife will she be? For all seven had her as wife. Jesus answered and said to them, Are you not therefore mistaken, because you do not know the Scriptures, nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But concerning the dead, that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the burning bush passage, how God spoke to him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. You are therefore greatly mistaken. Amen. This is the end of the Bible reading today. Thanks for joining me. God bless you. Have a good day. And see you tomorrow again.